With rented vehicle, it will not give a problem.
First thing when I read about you, sir, actually in the newspaper, the first thing we cyclists notice is like, okay, I mean, I am not from a basically I'm from engineering background, so I know very little about science. So the first thing that I noticed was like you don't own a car. Okay.
That's right.
So like then your personality interested for us.
Yes.
So even I don't own a car.
I'm glad that did something.
So like okay, so what does he do? So next we go and dig. Okay, he goes for cycling. Where does he go cycling? So these are the kind of research we do when somebody who is more passionate into cycling. I told you like psychology is more of studying people who also cycle. So it's I mean when I told the other friends of mine, they were really shocked. I mean, they stopped. Does he not own a car? Like, especially in our country, you are more respected only if you own a car. Like
Yes.
cycling is something for
Poor people.
alpha beta gamma of life. I mean, sorry, car is the alpha beta gamma of life. That is a goal ultimately.
Yeah.
But cycling is only for the poor and the neglected community. So
Yes.
that is the kind of conditioning that has been done, and even though it continues.
It's one of the worst things about India, I have
So
to say.
why is it that you don't own a car? So,
I don't own a car for a variety of reasons. One is I enjoy cycling, and the other is that I think it's environmentally a much nicer mode of transport. It doesn't pollute. I get exercise every day, regardless of whether I take time out to exercise or not. Just by going to work and coming back, I automatically get exercise. Although I also do other things like run and lift weights. But if I don't have time to do that, at least I get some minimum amount of exercise. And also, I really enjoy it. You know, you get up in the morning, and if you go on a bicycle to work, you're awake by the time you reach work, and you're not stressed out. And then at the end of the day, it's nice the other way, because you may be stressed at work, and then you get on your bike and you go home, and by the time you reach home, you're fully relaxed. So I think it's a great lifestyle. And when I grew up in Baroda, you could bicycle everywhere. You could go, even as a school child, you could bicycle from one end of Baroda to another, no problem. I used to go all over town, and so did my sister. And then now I visit, and it's impossible to bicycle, because all these motorcycles and cars have come. And students who used to, the student hostels, they used to be completely full of bicycles. Now there's not a single bicycle.
exactly.
Everybody has a motorcycle. That's the minimum that they have. So I think it's kind of destroying Indian cities. This excess traffic. And
Correct. So one of the reasons that is often mentioned to discourage cycling is that cycle is very slow and it consumes more time, especially with your tight schedule. You are a busy man with tight schedule. How do you manage your time cycling?
I think this is all bogus, because the same people who do that, they'll spend lots of time on all sorts of other activities. Okay, and secondly, nowadays, have you been in a car in Bangalore? It takes an hour and a half to go from anywhere to anywhere. Okay, and I'll tell you, in Cambridge, which also has a big traffic problem, I have often agreed to meet people for dinner at a restaurant, and usually I'm there before the people in the car, because they have to find, they have to go a different route, and then they have to obey all this, they have all these stoplights and things, then they have to find parking, and then they have to come to the restaurant, and I'm already there. So I think this is all nonsense, I think for anything up to 5 kilometers, I think it'll hardly take any more time to do bicycle.
Okay, so the whole DNA, I mean, you have been doing research on this. So, I mean, the urban planner's DNA is like focused on expensive cars, expensive metros, spend a lot of 10,000 crores on metro, 20 crores on flyovers, underpass you put 30 crores with absolutely zero investment on enabling cycling.
Yeah.
Government thinks it takes no action to enable cycling.
Yeah.
So what are the facilities that has been created, especially in Europe? There's a culture that is growing like anything, revolutionary. So
The culture in England is actually behind countries like Holland. Holland is very, very advanced.
So what are the
in cycling.
facilities that you appreciate in Europe
So
to
the
enable
thing I
cycling?
appreciate are separate bike paths. So when they build a road, they will now often build a bicycle path next to the road, so that your bicycle is not right in the traffic. That's a very important thing, especially for young children. If you want to take young children to cycle, and then there are other things which are even better, where they have completely bicycle paths. There's no road at all nearby, but it's maybe a shortcut that goes through some woods or through some housing development or something, it will be only a bike path. You can walk there or you can cycle there, but there's no traffic at all. So those are the kinds of things that make life for cyclists easier. But I have to say, all of those things cost very little.
Correct.
Because the amount of pavement you need for a cycle path, the amount of land you need for a cycle path, it's nothing compared to a road or especially an underpass or overpass or things like that. So I think, people should be, it would be good if, there was some use of some resurgence of cycling. I mean, India used to be a big cycling country.
Correct. I mean, the density was as good as Netherlands.
Yeah. When I was growing up, cycling was the mode of transportation. Only very few people had cars.
Right.
Now, everybody wants a car, and I think that's a silly way to progress because, I mean, the whole world is running out of, gasoline, this global warming, this pollution. There are all sorts of reasons. And apart from that, people are stressed, they go in these cars, there's traffic problems, it's always, you have to be alert, or they have to hire a driver or something, and that driver will be stressed out. Whereas cycling, you just enjoy and you're outside, it can be fun. But it cannot coexist with this kind of traffic. That's the problem.
See, for enabling all these things, I feel there should be a strong political support also from the governments. But here,
the problem is that people who are wealthy and have the political power, they don't want to cycle. They think of cycling as some poor person's occupation, and so they have to change that mindset. I think that mindset can only be changed if young people who go on to become professionals and become well off, they maintain that tradition of cycling and put pressure on the politicians and government. Otherwise, it won't happen.
now in Europe, what is how does the community enable cycling? What is the, I mean, for
Well,
us
there
it's
are
becoming-
clubs. For instance, I belong to a club called the Cambridge Cycling Campaign.
Oh, okay.
And that club, anytime a new road is built or anytime an intersection is modified or some new development happens, they attend all the planning council meetings, the town meetings, and they make sure that the cyclists' interests are taken care of. Okay. So you need that kind of lobby. Otherwise, nothing will happen. You just tell people.
Thanks. Sir, I just recently read in a newspaper interview that you had went for a place called Norfolk for cycling.
Yes.
So
how did you read that?
I found out, before coming here, I did some research.
I didn't realize that was anywhere on the web, but anyway.
I think almost everything what is on.
So I mean, I did.
So my wife and I went on a week-long cycling tour.
So stories of adventures.
Norfolk.
So can you give 2 stories of adventures while cycling with your wife?
I don't know if we had any adventures. We had a very good time. It was
Okay.
beautiful countryside. We saw beaches, we saw old castles, we saw old villages.
Fine.
So I think it was just a wonderfully relaxing time.
Oh.
And I have to say, I suffer from high blood pressure, and by the end of that 8 days, my blood pressure was below normal.
Okay.
Probably if I had kept on cycling like that, I wouldn't have to take any medicines at all.
It's so nice, sir. So, I mean, especially in countries like villages, they have created the infrastructure for tourism, right?
Yeah.
Especially in India, we don't see that kind of thing. So, can you just give us a brief thing? What are the tourism for enabling cycling tourism in these places?
I think, I have a very well-known biologist friend named Graham Mitchison.
Okay.
And he and I were planning to come to India this year to go on a cycling holiday. But then after all this Nobel Prize, it became completely a mad scene.
Okay.
But we may want